All right, welcome to Feisty Chess. We've got black. We're playing against e4. Let's play e5 and see what happens. Going against Rodrigo7070 on Lichess. Okay, all normal stuff here. It's been a while. I've been playing a lot of Blitz. Let's go with the two knights defense. I don't know if the Blitz may have given me bad habits. Probably d3 here. Yeah, the usual move. Okay, I'm going to try this unorthodox system with h6. And later we're going to surprise black with g5 here, probably on the next move. Yep, g5. And at this point, white, I should say, not black. At this point, white might be thinking, this is a subpar opening and I should try to punish it. Or maybe he's just thinking this is new, I don't know what to do. This appears to be somewhat threatening after all. I'm going to open up that king side. Well, he's already castled and I'm not castled yet. But probably I will wait to do this and castle. My king side is a little bit airy, but with my bishop on g7, I should be fine. And I do have these options for attacking. My plans involve getting a knight to f4. Maybe this knight can come to f4 as well. And maybe pushing g4 at some point. Okay, he's just going to continue developing. Now I can push g4 here. And he's probably going to take, and I develop my bishop with a pin on that knight. And this knight having come to c3 makes that pin a little more problematic. Is now the time to do this? Or I want to get one move closer to castling first. I don't know. I may not need to castle. I've got more time than usual here. So maybe I push g4. He has to take. Otherwise he just loses a pawn and I open the king side anyway. So g4, h takes g4, bishop takes g4. And that pin is really problematic to deal with. Not only because he can't get a knight here, or this bishop here, but also because he has no h-pawn left. So I'm convinced. I'm sold on this. Let's push it. And we'll have a mighty pin on this knight. And if he ever wants to break the pin, he's going to have to let me take the knight and recapture with the pawn, it looks like. In the meantime, I'm threatening this. So does he need to play knight e2 here? How else does he guard the d4 square? He does. Okay. Now, probably our best shot is just to crack open that king side with bishop takes. And now I'm glad I didn't castle. Bishop takes, and then probably knight h5. Is there any sense in... No, let's chop that knight off. This is really nice. I mean, white needs to take, right? Knight h5 looks good. Rook g8 check. Although I don't need to give that check right now. He probably wants to get his king to the h file. Well, hold on. No. Knight h5 gives him a chance for rook e1, which gives his king f1 to escape to. So I'm thinking rook g8 check, more forcing. He can either go knight here or bring his king to the h file, in which case knight h5 opens up this possibility of queen check, which is devastating. So, backing up, rook g8, he's got to go knight g3. But then knight h5. How does he back that up? It might transpose. I'm going to go ahead and go for this check. Maybe he'll go to the H-file, in which case I think I just got him dead to rights. But I think he needs to go knight G3. Then maybe H5 is good. Well, Rodrigo left the game. Let's look at some lines. He may or may not come back. So, we already looked at this. Any king to the H-file, and this is just devastating. He has no way of stopping queen H4 mate after knight H5, or even, for that matter, knight. Well, okay. He can go knight G3 at that point, in which case his king's got to go back. And then I'm just winning. I'll be winning on G3 because my knight, my queen, and my rook all pile up on that. My queen will take, and I'll mate him on H1 again. So that's impossible. He's got to go knight G3, at which point there's two appealing moves. H5, threatening to go H6 and win the knight. Or knight H5, piling up on the knight, and then probably queen H1 is needed. And then after queen H4, yeah, after queen H4, he has no other way of protecting G3 other than king G2, but that fails to knight check here. And if he takes with the bishop, we take with the pawn, and then we're winning that pinned knight next. If he just slides his king back and leaves the knight on F4, well, queen comes to H3, and now he has to take the knight or get mated. And the same thing applies. So we're winning a knight at the very least, but it looks like we're just winning the game on abandonment, and we'll take it. Okay, you see the point of this system. In these two knights defense lines, this obviously prevents bishop G5, and it looks like a beginner move. And I usually don't recommend moves like H6 or A6 in the opening. I'm all about the speed and getting the pieces out. But when white castles here, okay, he plays H3. Maybe he's just wanted to get the same kind of useful move in and keep it in an opening he knows. Maybe he thinks, I'm going to go bishop C5 now, and we'll play like an Italian-style game with the moves H3 and H6 included. But I like when they play H3 because, especially after he castles, here comes G4 and now G5, and you see how big a threat G4 can be in this game. This is a really good illustration of that, actually. I don't know that this has a name. I learned this from a free Chessable course on the two knights defense, and honestly, I was very excited to see it. I'm not sure I've learned it all that well, but every time I play the two knights defense, I'm hoping for something exciting. Maybe castles, maybe D4, maybe knight G5, especially knight G5. I love all those variations. But the boring way to play it, and maybe the best way to play it, is D3. Just continuing to develop and guarding that pawn. Oh, knight C3 I'm also a fan of because I get to go into this fork trick variation with knight takes C3. So white has lots of moves here, but the one I always am kind of bored with seeing is D3. But it's a good move, and I don't fault white for playing it. So I come up with this little, I guess it's not a novelty of mine, but it was new to me when I saw this, and you see some of the venom behind it. Black doesn't have to castle in these Italian games, and when white castles early, he's giving us the king's address, so we know where to attack it, like we did in this game. Meanwhile, the center is relatively closed here, and I'm safe in the center, and I get to use this king's rook for attack. Okay, I think this is a mistake. Let's get the analysis board out here. I think knight c3 is where he went wrong. Probably the knight wants to go to d2 so that this knight can have more support if there's a pin that's going to happen. Maybe even g4 is a good move here. Knight h2 is the most popular move in this position, strange enough. So getting out of this, what I call this is a hook. A hook as in this allows me to kind of pry open the king side when there's this knight here and this pawn here. This is a force. This g4 becomes a forcing move where the knight has to move or the pawn has to take, and either way, I can take after that. So either way, that's kind of a can opening move for White's king side, and that's not the part of the board he wants opened. So we need to do something about that. c3 is a nice alternative. That scores pretty well here. Point of that is I can get all these things in, and we can take, and I have this pin. But now my knight's not going to come to d4 since he's got that covered by his pawn on c3. And his knight can still develop to d2 if it needs to. Bishop e3 makes sense with the same idea of guarding d4 and still allowing for knight to e2, knight to d2 without blocking the development of the bishop. Oh, d4. d4 right away is an interesting try. Anyway, there's lots of ways this could go. But knight c3 is one of the main moves on the list, but look at black's score. About 2/3 of the game's going black's favor here, almost. Yeah, and g4 is the way to go. So my spider sense was right here. Boom. And like I said, he's got to take. He can try to back up with the knight, but I'm just going to take. And we've gained a pawn. Probably the best move is just g3 here. But okay, we're up a pawn. This pawn might not live too long. Actually, it's well guarded by the bishop. And this knight is kind of sad. Yeah, it looks like h5, and then getting a knight or a bishop to g5. g4 is the idea. Is a good idea here. Black's really in control here. He probably has a decisive advantage. Yeah, it's worse than a pawn deficit for White according to the computer. So he's got to take, but that's not that much better. Actually, the computer prefers knight h2, it looks like. But after bishop takes, he's got this pin, and it's not like there's this immediate. It's not just that there's a pin that can't be broken. This immediate threat of knight d4 is the key. Yeah, and I think probably knight e2 is as good a move as any. But oh no, he's got bishop e3 here. That's the best try. Now rook g8 just adds up the pressure. We don't have to act on this pin immediately, and any knight d4 is just going to be met by bishop takes. But black's doing very well here, but not as. Yeah, this is catastrophic, I think, for White. I did call this out as a candidate move before he made it, so I was thinking the same kind of things, but I think White needs to spend more time here and look for better ways to prevent knight to d4, and bishop e3 seems to be the way to do it. Bishop b5 also does. Interestingly, just pin that knight. No, White scores well in these positions, but still black has the advantage. Yeah, bishop e3. Yeah, we looked at this. It's still pretty ugly for black. Rook g8, and then say after knight d5, take, and queen f6, just to pile up on that knight. Especially now that this pawn is going to be pinned. Got to go king h1. We're a piece up according to the computer. Knight e7, and I guess the plan is to just keep piling on this knight, right? How do you stop it? You can't play g3 to stop that because the knight will fall. And this bishop can never get back to defend the light squares. So you can let him take on b7, just play rook b8, and when the bishop moves, you just keep moving with that knight. The bishop might get a check in, you just move your king to d8, Your knight is coming to g6, coming to h4. That's what I can see here. So yeah, bishop e3, much better shot for white. This allows for me to force open both the g and h files. And now rook g8 check, and yeah, the most forcing move is also the winning one here. I wonder if knight h5 is good enough to win. Yeah, it's still plenty good. But rook h4, I think knight h5 is going to be met by king g2, interestingly. What? I would think this, so the king can try to run to f1. I don't have a light square bishop anymore. Queen h4 anyway. Oh, that doesn't work. Doesn't work because we still have this. Yeah, and same stuff as we saw in the game, and that might even transpose to some of these other lines. So knight g3, now knight h5. Yeah, getting the knight in the game is better than pushing the pawn. The pawn might get in the way of the queen and other attacking pieces. c3. It's unclear what the point of that even is, but I would try something like this, or something to defend, add extra defense to g3, right? Oh, knight d4. Oh, that's even worse because king g2, queen f6. Oh, we've got forks here. We've just got so many ways to win. Oh, knight f4 check now. Anyway, the line I saw ran something like, not with that move, but queen h4 is good enough to win here. And king g2 runs into knight f4, and he's got to take, otherwise there's just this mate. He has to take now at the very least, but even if he takes here, either case the knight is pinned. We're going to win that knight, and white can maybe play on, but with that much time on the clock, and with his king still subject to attack, white decided not to. Okay, hey, it's been a while, folks. I don't know, been busy, been drawn into blitz chess, and I'm looking for some more wholesome chess lately, and this kind of got me excited about this two knights line again. Looks like a Patzer's kind of line, especially when you play this g5, but a lot of venom, especially after black castles, after white castles. He's got to go with a counterintuitive move like knight h2. Doesn't look like a good move strategically, but the point is the tactics override the strategy, and you can't allow this can opening tactic here. So, okay, nice feisty game to get us back in the habit. So stay feisty, folks. See you next time.